Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of our radio show every afternoon, 1 till 4 on the Platform. I'm Martin Devlin, Lachlan Moore alongside. This is a podcast of that show. The two biggest games in New Zealand sport this coming week involve the All Blacks and the Warriors. We begin our build-up big time for those. Of course, look back at all the sport over the weekend as well, but all eyes on this coming Saturday. Double code clash kicking off with the All Blacks and then the Warriors at 6 o'clock away Penrith. We got a lot to talk about.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Panic not, Warriors fans. This is the fun bit. What a season so far. 16 wins, 4th spot. That is well worth celebrating right there. Let no one forget that. 10 more regulation in-comp wins than last season. This is the one-year turnaround that everybody dreamed of. Let's get serious for a second. At the start of round one, way back on March the 3rd, 26 weeks ago, no one was genuinely thinking top 4. No one. Maybe Andrew Webster. Maybe he knew something that the rest of everyone didn't. Whatever he saw, he knew enough that this could be something special, that he could infuse whatever beliefs he had. He could put the skills and knowledge into his players. He could personally change things. But this dramatically, this is a complete zero to hero turnaround in an incredibly tough, intense competition. Let's not kid ourselves here. Plenty of good teams haven't made the playoffs. Souths, Cowboys, Eels, Manly. These are rich clubs, massive resources. How are they all feeling today? Knowing that they're not in and the Warriors are. This club, your Warriors, is the toast of the 2023 NRL. There's no question about that. So my point is, enjoy it, bask in it, feel great about it. Then really quickly, like about today or tomorrow, get focused and get ready for what's to come. Penrith, the Panthers, back-to-back champs, top of the table Penrith, the best team in the comp for years, consistent excellence. They can smack you and hurt you from everywhere, and they hardly ever lose. This is a massive challenge, and the Warriors go in as huge underdogs. Any result against this lot would be considered the biggest upset of the finals round. But fear not. It's Penrith who have everything to lose here. They're the top seed, they're the defending champs, they're the best team in the comp. All the expectation is on them. All the expectation is on them. The Warriors now have 2 bites at the finals cherry, 2 chances to make it through to that semi-final weekend where one win puts you in the grand final. This game, this week, the build-up, just enjoy it. You see, this is the fun part. Don't overthink the Dolphins result. That was the last round-robin game. It's not the finals. No, it doesn't mean the same. Penrith are a really good side. This is finals footy, baby. The Warriors are back in it. It's been so long. My recommendation is nothing other than to just enjoy the ride.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
We're going to kick it with rugby to start with Jamie Wallace with the All Blacks. And also Chris Jones, our mate out of the UK. He's going to run through who he thinks are the top prospects at the World Cup and why. The best 6 to 8 teams. We'll do the Warriors after 2. We'll do the Premier League, the motorsport, and all of that after 3. Lachlan, headlines, what have we got?
I don't know where to start, to be honest. I might start with motorsport, actually. Liam Lawson was in action again in Formula 1. He had a really impressive showing in his first race. I believe it was the Dutch Grand Prix last week where he finished 13th. He's gone 2 better. He's finished 11th at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, very famous circuit, just outside the points, but 11th is a very impressive finish for Liam Lawson. So another great drive. And Red Bull team boss Christian Horner confirmed that Daniel Ricciardo, whom Lawson replaced for the time being at AlphaTauri, is unlikely, should I say, to return from a broken hand injury in time for the Singapore Grand Prix or the following week in Japan, which means another couple of races for Lawson at the least. Red Bull driver and 2-time defending champion and, let's be honest, soon to be crowned 2023 champion, Max Verstappen won his 10th straight Grand Prix. Red Bull had a 1-2. 10 straight race wins is a Formula 1 record. He continues to just blitz the rest of the field, does Max Verstappen. Courtney Duncan, New Zealand motocross rider, has won another world championship. She has 4 now, winning the 2023 title over the weekend in Turkey. Wonderful stuff, Courtney. We'll look to get her on the show this week as well. Black Caps were in action this morning. Opener Fenelon erupting at the top of the batting order, helping New Zealand to a 74-run 2020 win over England, keeping their 4-match series alive. That match was in Birmingham. We probably don't really care, but I guess it's nice to see Fenelon doing well. He's been a little bit up and down the last year or so. Premier League this morning, Arsenal managed a 3-1 victory over... Who did they beat, Martin? Can you just help me out here? Who did Arsenal beat this morning? Yeah.
That's about all I got.
Manchester United, 2 goals in stoppage time to win it 3-1. It was 1-1 for most of the game. Liverpool beat Aston Villa 3-0 this morning. If I may quickly have a squiz at the top 4, no surprises at all with who's on top. Manchester City have 4 wins from 4 to start the year, the only team having won all their games. Spurs are sitting second. They, along with Liverpool, West Ham and Arsenal, all 3 wins and a draw. Goals difference seeing Spurs sit on top of that group. Brighton, they're in 6th. The other unbeaten team, though, Brentford, remain unbeaten. 1 win, 3 draws. They sit down in 8th. Manchester United are 11th, Chelsea 12th. Luton and Burnley, the only teams without wins so far this season. Actually, I don't think they've got any points. I'll correct myself. There are no points for Luton and Burnley. They've lost all their games so far.
Devlin,
Oh my goodness me!
the platform.
Rugby World Cup. Our man Chris Jones, Times Online and rugbypass.com in France for the duration of the tournament for us, going through one by one all the top teams and what are their realistic prospects. What we want is what your thoughts are on how the team is tracking and really what they're going to do at this World Cup. Let's go for Ireland to start with.
Well, obviously world number ones, wandered over to New Zealand, won the Test series. Haven't played Johnny Sexton yet because he was banned. So they've actually been on the winning trail without their talisman. And it always was a big question. Can they win without Johnny? And actually, they've been playing pretty well without Johnny. So it'll be a battle for him to get back in. But they've got huge strength and depth. And they just look, they look the real deal. As you know, they perform appallingly at World Cups, falling at the quarterfinal hurdle all the time. So finally, this might be their one.
Is it all about weight of expectation on them? Because everything that I've seen from them is playing-wise, they're brilliant. They've got muscly forwards. They attack from everywhere. There, as you say, good strength and depth. Is it all about what's upstairs in that final 2 inches and whether or not they can handle being favourites?
Yeah, winning the Grand Slam was important for them. They delivered. It was at home, so it helps. They've now got to come to France, and and as we know, they're in the worst part of the draw. But I was talking to Serge Betson, the legendary French flanker, this week, and he said, "Look, you've got to beat everybody to win the World Cup. If it comes earlier than you expected, so what? You still got to play these teams. You can't just ignore them." So, yeah, Ireland are up for it. They've got a really, really good squad assembled, and they had something like 8,000 fans at their training session yesterday, and they were all doing the Icelandic clapping. So they've got the fans on side as well.
France, hosts, made the final, never won it. 3 times they've made that final, and they played the All Blacks first up. They've had another raft of injuries. Where are they at?
They're struggling a bit injury-wise. To lose Paul Willemse is a massive blow. If they do come up against South Africa, they need the big bits of meat, and he was the biggest they had. And there's some question about whether he'll make it back for the tournament at all. And they brought in a guy called Bastien Chevreau, who was convicted of what was called a racist attack and given a 6-month suspended sentence in 2020. There's now a huge row about him being in the squad. So the French are not coming to this the way they would have wanted. There are political questions over their selection. There's injuries to Jonathan Dante, to Willemse. They've lost, obviously, Ntamak. So it's not the way they would have wanted it. But you know what? Perhaps a team like France needs to feel their backs are a little bit against the wall to bring out the best in them, because the expectation for them is absolutely massive. 2007, they had a chance. This time, they have a brilliant chance.
Who do you rate out of the two of them, Ireland and France, as more likely?
France, purely because they are going to have a public that in most occasions when they play and they're in big tournaments and don't actually get it right, they turn on them. And they're venomous in the way that they let the team know that they're not performing. This time, they really have got the crowd with them, and that's going to be a massive help for them. Stade de France, great arena, with 80-odd thousand Frenchmen going nuts. It is going to be intimidating, and I think that's the difference this time. I've seen all the 3 French finals when they have failed to deliver. I mean, 87, they were just happy to be there. They played the best game in the semi-final against Australia. You know, in 99, they just spent the time punching Australians rather than playing rugby, lost that final. And somehow they managed to lose to you guys in 2011 when you had your fourth choice outside half. And it didn't help them that they'd completely fallen out with their coach. These sort of self-inflicted wounds, you know, despite picking a guy who's been obviously given a suspended sentence for a racist attack, they're in much better shape, despite the injuries, I hasten to add.
South Africa, after the way they did to New Zealand, how does that alter everyone's mindset about this team?
Do you know, they're doing things very differently. They just came in on a ferry from Corsica, which took 10 and a half hours to get to Toulon. And of course, they get off the ferry as passengers, get into a massive coach with Springboks emblazoned along the side, and they're welcomed like heroes because they've got Elizabeth in their side, who, of course, is the Toulon favourite. So, you know, they don't have to win many hearts and minds in that area of France. What they have to do is prove that on the field they can make it yet another fantastic World Cup triumph. And, you know, just looking, you're trying to work out what is their best back division. You ask, you know, what's the best forward division? The 7-1 split to the forwards. Yes, they could play 7 forwards on the bench, but how do they fit all those backs into that unit? Because they have so many guys in form playing really well, except for 10. And they are going to miss the guy who was there in 2019. You know, you can't not miss somebody like Pollard. And I think that is the only thing that may come back to bite them when they need those points, those penalties to win a tight game. I'm still not sure that Manny's the guy who can do that.
All Blacks then, who are ranked 4th. That's why I've left us 4th.
Look, you couldn't play any worse than you did in that first 20 minutes at Twickenham. So get it out of your system. Get it out of your system. Yeah, be able to bring back Twizel. Yeah, bring back Lurch into the second row. Yeah, it looks a little bit more of a better heavy hitting forward pack. But boy, that must have taken something out of the self confidence. And you know, France first up, they're going to be hoping that the injuries to Willemse and to loss of Ensnack will cause some kind of disruption, but I can't see that happening. So you end up as runners-up, and runners-up in Pool A. You play the winners of Pool B, which will be South Africa or Ireland. So, wow, what a quarter-final.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
Next!
Back to the Minister of Common Sense.
We need to talk. Next!
Lachlan, as far as Chris Jones is concerned, Ireland are the number 1 seeds. He's got France alongside. Who is your Rugby World Cup? And I'm going to keep this and ask you again throughout the next few weeks to see if or not you change your mind. Yes, too much hesitation there.
No, I don't know. I really don't know. My gut says one of Ireland or South Africa or France. I can't give you 3 teams, so I'll give you Ireland because they're number 1 in the world. That's my favourite right now to win the World Cup.
Next!
Do we get past the quarterfinal?
No. I don't think so.
Please.
Now, this is recency bias, which I, like any sports fan, is guilty of, that we get swayed by the most recent example of what our team has put out on the park. And the All Blacks were very just appalling, actually. And to me, it's aged very poorly, that performance against the Springboks, at least for me. So if there is even a hint of that team showing up at the quarterfinals, we are going to get absolutely monstered. In saying that, we've shown an ability to be physical and size up with these big teams, which we did with the Springboks last year and this year. But I just don't see, I think Ireland and South Africa are the 2 best teams at the tournament. So I just don't see how what we have done gets past, or what we have lacked to be able to do the last 4 years really, gets us past one of those 2 teams. They're far more settled than us.
Does it come back to playing stocks? Because we had Tupuvai on the news there. No disrespect to anyone that is in that All Black squad. But when I hear his name, when I hear the name of Anton Leonard-Brown, I'm not picking on these 2 players, but I'm just using these 2 as an example. Those guys are in the team because Brodie Retallick is out injured or Geordie Barrett is out injured, and all of a sudden, because I just think there is way too many players in this All Black squad, and I was saying it since the start of the year, who to me aren't world-class players. You need world-class players to win a World Cup. You need guys who are if not the best in the world in their positions, they certainly have to be ranked amongst the best in the world. And I really don't think we have those guys. You know, to lose one or two players, this is an All Black World Cup squad. What the hell has happened to us? Would you not expect Cro-Magnon guy gets injured, the next Cro-Magnon guy goes in his place? Next man up. That's meant to be how good we are. That's meant to be our strength and depth, is it not? And I really worry about what happens, because I honestly think we absolutely have about 15 to 20 players who I have confidence in. The rest I don't.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think apart from 2015 and 2019 to a degree, we did get this false sense of security of how good our team is. I mean, you go through the World Cup squads that we had in 2000. I mean, we didn't win 2007. We should have. That year and 2011, I still actually think there is a drop-off. Like this is no disrespect to these players, but like Anthony Boric was one of our locks in 2011, who was never really that great as an All Black. He was a good Super Rugby player for the Blues.
That's what I fear we got at the moment. A lot of good Super Rugby players.
I don't think this team is so far off the paces compared to All Blacks World Cup teams of the past.
Right.
My big thing, I've thought about this more and more, I don't think there are the 1, 2 or 3 genuine leaders and men who are looked up to in that team that when things get a bit tricky, your back's against the wall, you're in tight contests that the rest of the playing group look up to. I think the difference for, say, in 2011, because you look at that squad and I actually don't think it was anything that much better than the squad this year, is you had Richie McCaw, you had Dan Carter, you had Kieran Reid, who was forming into a leader. You had Brad Thorne.
Tony Woodcock had played almost 100 teams.
These are blokes that at that point in time when they turned into this as well, guys that you relied on and looked up to. Now, it's no disrespect to Sam Cane, but he is not even as a leader, not even in the same ballpark or a galvaniser, I think, as a Richie McCaw. You've got him and Sam Whitelock, who are two of our, they probably are two leaders, but apart from that, there's no one in that team that strikes me as someone that fills the rest of the team with confidence. I don't think Artie Savi is that, not to be rude. I don't think Bowden Barrett or Aaron Smith is that. And I've always thought that the better position, like a captain, I think needs to be a forward. I think there's something about a guy who gets in the thick of it, who's down there in the rucks and the mauls and the scrums and whatnot. There's something about a guy. It's like in football, you don't really want your captain to be a goalkeeper because he's not out in the field.
I want my captain to be Roy Keane. I want a central midfielder. I want a guy who's winning the ball, who's dictating the pace of the game.
I feel like it's a similar thing with rugby with forwards, and I just don't see that with this group. That's more the problem. I don't think we have the intangibles with these players as much as their skill sets.
I'm going to go back to the original question. Instead of asking you, do we get out of the quarterfinal, what do you expect of us then at this World Cup?
I think we narrowly lose to France on Saturday.
God, is that a setback or not? You see, because we've still got a quarterfinal.
It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. I think the only because regardless we're playing the only saving grace for actually going hard out and winning that opening game against France is that if Scotland cause an upset and beat, because they'd be much more beatable than Ireland and South Africa. Okay. Even if they get past Ireland and have the game of their lives, I'd much rather play Scotland than Ireland in the quarterfinals. So that's where winning that first game's got to be really important. But look, we'll win 3 games in the pool at worst, and then we'll probably lose the quarterfinal.
Next!
If we win the quarterfinal,
forward ho to the final.
Well, yeah, because then we'd be playing probably Argentina or England or Australia in the semi.
Upsets in the first round. Tell me if any of these will be that. South Africa versus Scotland. Upset.
No, South Africa win.
South Africa win?
Yeah, they won that.
Wales against Fiji.
Fiji, but I don't think that's an upset.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I think that the current form, Fiji, after beating England at Twickenham, says to me that they should win that game.
Yeah.
Australia versus Georgia.
No, it'll be ugly. That'll be an ugly. It'll be like 20-10.
Well, it'll be worth watching because it will just be awful to watch. It won't be. Everything about the game is just going to be endured.
And Georgia will have the biggest fan base around the world watching that game.
Every single
Not one
rugby
person
fan
will be going for Australia.
No, everyone wants that.
Apart from Australia.
England versus Argentina.
But I don't think that's an upset because England, I think, are just awful right now. So for me, Argentina should be the favourites, and I think they'll win that.
We're going to talk to the Warriors in about 20 minutes or so. Final question for you then. I'm going to go through a whole lot of teams, and you're just going to tell me yes or no as to whether or not they make the quarterfinals. Ireland.
Yes.
France.
Yes.
South Africa.
Yes.
New Zealand.
Yes.
And we're all on that side of the draw. How the hell did this happen, World Rugby?
Why couldn't they just do the draw at the start of the year?
Why couldn't they?
Why couldn't on January 1st, when the rankings had those 4 teams in the top 4, why couldn't they be then divvied up as the best teams across the 4 pools?
And this is just the administrative idiocy at its best. So that's the draw, and yet they still publish the rankings after every test match where these teams all... All right. Australia.
Yes.
They make the quarterfinals.
Yeah, they make the quarterfinals.
England.
Just.
Well, you don't just make it, you make it.
You make it, but it'll be, yeah.
Okay.
They'll make it, but...
Argentina.
Yep, they'll top the group, I think. Which is Pool D with England and Japan and Samoa.
Fiji.
Yes.
Wales.
No.
Well, you've already said 8 names. Yes,
Yeah,
just
there we go.
checking to see whether you're still awake. Warriors fans, as I said in the sermon at the start of the show, this is a week to enjoy. This is a week to bask in the glory of finals football because it hasn't happened since 2018. Brendan Bradford, codesports.au. Time to celebrate, mate. You got the Panthers. I mean, they had a fantastic winning today, but they'd lost the previous game. The Knights are the team that are the most winning team at the moment, 9 in a row, and they get a finals at home as well. I mean, they look a sure shot, don't they, to be playing next weekend?
Yeah, surely the Knights. And that's a great game too. Knights Raiders, it's 2, out of Sydney teams, pretty much one-town teams. The whole city gets behind those 2 clubs when they're going well. Tickets go on sale today for that game up in Newcastle, and you can imagine it's going to sell out in a couple of hours. But yeah, just on form and on what they look like on the weekend, you got to be tipping the Knights to beat the Raiders. I think the Raiders are really, really limping into this final series. It was probably, if the Rabbitohs had made the finals, even the Cowboys, I could see them giving finals football a fairer shake, a better crack than the Raiders. I think the Raiders are just holding on, and I think they'll be out next week.
The reason I'm asking you that is because no team 5 to 8 has ever won in this finals format. Are the Knights a team that could possibly break that?
Oh, that's a really good question, and I'm just not fully convinced. Although they've been on a great run of form, they're playing good, confident football. Kalen Ponga's come back, Dom Young scoring freakish tries from nowhere. I'm not sold on them yet as a finals football team, as a team experienced enough like the Panthers are, to grind out wins. I'm just not confident. And as bizarre as it sounds, I think the Roosters, I just got a feeling that the Roosters, with the players and the experience and the coach they've got, it's just different when it's knockout football. And I just think the Roosters, for some reason, I've just got a feeling that they might do better this time of year than the Knights.
Let's look then this weekend, and these matches that are on top of the table. Panthers hosting the Warriors. All eyes on that, of course, from New Zealand, and the Broncos get the Storm again. This is 2 teams that, as you say, played on Thursday night, but this is going to be 2 completely different teams that turn up at Suncorp for that game.
Yeah, you can't read. I don't think you can read anything into Thursday's game leading into Broncos Storm take 2. Both sides rested 5-6 top-line players. We're talking Origin Test footballers, and it was a cracking game. It was a great game. We saw Failongo come on and just tear up. But what we will say is it's going to be the first time in a while that a properly sort of fit and match ready Ryan Pappenhausen and Cam Munster play together. The Storm are big outsiders according to the bookies, but I think it should be a little closer. I think the odds will come in. They're 234 at the moment. I think those odds will come in because they've beaten the Broncos 14 times in a row. They've won every time they've played at Suncorp since 2009. I think the Storm, I'd be backing an upset here, to be honest with you. But it's going to be a fantastic way to kick off finals football.
And what do you say to Warriors fans finally? I started the show today by saying, listen, just bask in what has happened and then quickly get over that and then look towards Penrith and just enjoy the ride. This is the fun bit. This is a team that has so overachieved up until now. There's nothing disappointing to me that can actually happen from here. I'm just sitting here going, whatever. We're in the finals. Let's just give it a crack and see.
Yeah. That's as a fan, as a Warriors fan, that would be my advice, and that's also my approach. With no team, no team, not just this season. I can't remember a team, maybe the Cowboys last year, that has overachieved on pre-season predictions than the Warriors this season to finish fourth. Just incredible. So, yeah, look, big outsiders to beat the Panthers. Haven't beaten the Panthers in a very, very long time. Actually, the last time the Warriors played finals football in 2018, lost to the Panthers just before the Panthers became a truly Gunn side. But, yeah, just enjoy it. It's been a long, hard couple of seasons going back to 2020. There's been, down times, coaches leaving, your best players leaving. All sorts. Just enjoy it. They could go out in straight sets and it's still going to be a tremendous season. Just enjoy finals football while you can. Live it up. Get behind them. And, really look forward to next year as well.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. Oh, I got to moan on, all right. Too much rugby. We had the big review report thing last Thursday where an independent panel concluded that the governance and structure of the game here isn't fit for purpose, blah, blah. And that after the NZR CEO, Mark Robinson, said the same thing about the NPC, FPC. And on the weekend, ample evidence, more evidence if it's ever needed, that the whole thing is seriously broken. You had NPC live games at 2:05, 4:35, 7:15 on Saturday. Now, up against those, you've got an FPC semi-final and a Heartland rugby match all on at the same time. Who are the idiots that plan all of this like this? There is way too much domestic rugby on, and it's all clashing with each other. So whatever audience you're trying to get, you're spreading it even thinner across multiple matches, all clashing and competing. To be fair, the Canterbury versus Taranaki match at Rangiora looked a better blueprint. Small crowd, small town, good local crowd. That's the base to build upon. But FPC players playing at Waikato Stadium in front of no spectators, it's embarrassing and it's entirely unnecessary. Women's rugby is not a professional sport in New Zealand. It isn't. Scream and yell as much as you like about pay parity and developing pathways, but no one is watching your product. Therefore, you don't have anything to sell. It's just ridiculous, the mismanagement. It's so obvious and evident and idiotic. There are no people watching these competitions. No one is going along, yet you pay players, broadcast costs, ground hire. They reckon an average NPC match costs around $400,000 to stage. You're never ever going to recoup that money in today's oversaturated market with average products and players. The standard of the FPC that I was watching was really pedestrian. The NPC's got some great games, but the overall skill and presentation and excitement compared to, say, the NRL, it's non-existent. It's so clear for everyone to see. You can blame who you like, but it's ultimately you fishheads in Wellington. You earn the big salaries to run the game. It's your failings and your responsibility.
Devlin.
I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
The platform. The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics to talk about, roughly a minute or so on each. And when the bell goes, we move quickly on to the next topic. Can Man City win every single game? Is it possible for a team to go through the Premier League 38-0? Novak keeps winning. Alcaraz keeps winning. Is there anyone else that even plays men's tennis apart from these two at the moment? Two biggest games in town this week are the Ableys versus France, the Wales versus Penrith. I'm going to ask you today. I'm going to ask you every day. I'm going to check in on Thursday to see if you've changed your tune, Lachlan. Courtney Duncan / Liam Lawson / Scott Dixon. My God, how good are we at motorsport at the moment? We could talk about free dental care, but that's not going to happen. We've got to mention Verstappen, of course. T20 series in England. Oh, please, don't even. And the Otago Whalers in the new National Rugby League Championship. Why is there not outrage at that name, the Otago Whalers? Let's kick it off, though, with the Premier League, and we'll talk to Tom Rennie shortly. Can Man City win every single game? I watched them stroll past Fulham on the weekend like it was a training run. They won 5-1. They could have won 35-1, Lachlan. Who stops them? See, you should have said Liverpool straight away.
No, we're not doing it. Our defence is very fragile. We're not stopping them. Well, we could beat them in a one-off game, absolutely. I think, actually, I'll say this. I'm biased as hell, but a part of it was also how we played this morning. It was a very vintage Klopp Liverpool type game, I thought. if we stay healthy and all of our signings, particularly in midfield, turn out to be as good as what they should be, then absolutely we'll have absolutely have a good run at the league. But there's a couple of ifs there. And I just think, man, they are set up to win every competition they're in. With the players they have, the quality of those players. I mean, when you can lose Gunn in the off-season, you lose De Bruyne to injury, they've got another midfielder, I don't know if it's Rodri, but there's another midfielder I think who's injured as well, and you bring in your B group and still beat a team 5-1.
In a canter.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, Liverpool can't do that, you guys can't do that, Chelsea are all over the place, Arsenal I don't think are going to be as good as they were last year this year. No one's at least in the league, no one's stopping them, I don't think. But they're not winning all 38 games, come on. They're not going to do that.
Who else plays men's tennis apart from Alcaraz and Novak?
Well, Tsitsipas is retired because he's in love. Apart from him, no other men's tennis players make storylines. People probably talk more about Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, even though they aren't playing, more than anyone else. Apart from, of course, Novak and Carlos Alcaraz. No, they're night and day. Them and the rest of men's tennis. I mean,
I don't miss Kyrgios. I don't miss the sideshow, the clown antics or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
All he is
your tuners. You were all over Nick Kyrgios last year.
Was I?
You couldn't get enough of him.
Then I changed, and then I kind of
fallen
out of love with him again. Look, I mean, I know that in the first couple of rounds he throws his rackets and does a few tanty things, and that just to provide a little bit of a storyline. But when it comes down to the business end of the tournament, he's not in consideration, is he? I watched Novak come back from 2 sets down on the weekend and did it easy, came back easy. He won again in straight sets today. Him and Coco Gauff seem to be the two stories out of the US Open at the moment. We'll talk to Dave Wesley about this after 3 o'clock. Are these the top 8 NRL sides? The table doesn't lie. Should there have been another team that is in the finals that isn't? No?
As you say, you have 27 rounds.
Thank you.
You play 24 games. You have 6 months to get in that 8. If you're one of South Sydney, North Queensland, and Parramatta, who are the 3 probably surprise teams to miss out, you had your chance. There's a reason you're not in the finals, because you weren't good enough during the 27 weeks. No, all the right teams are there.
Who should feel the most disappointed out of those 3 teams? They finished ninth.
South Sydney without a
Definitely?
doubt. Absolutely.
Because that loss to the Roosters cost them ultimate.
Yeah, but you look at, they were top of the table after 11 or 12 rounds, and they were the bookies' favourites to win the premiership. They to slide out from that position, and they were 1 win away from a grand final last year, and their form at the second half of last year, they looked more than capable of, finishing in the top 4 and actually going on to win the premiership. Their collapse is just strange.
2 biggest games in town this weekend. Did the All Blacks beat France?
No.
Did the Warriors beat Penrith?
No.
Oh, God, well, you're fun, aren't you? God, hell.
Okay, well, do you think the All Blacks will beat France?
I think the All Blacks beat France, yeah.
Really? Why?
Yeah,
based on what?
Based on the fact that we very rarely lose 2 matches in a row, and I don't think we're going to play as bad as we did against the Springboks at Twickenham.
No. We do. This team loses test matches back-to-back. This team does. Teams of the past don't. This team does.
Yeah, I mean, I hate...
You can't handle the truth.
I can't. That's the problem.
Do you think the Warriors will beat Penrith?
I'm not even going to allow myself to think about that until later in the week.
No.
I'm still in the love.
Well, then why are you
I'm
asking
still
me?
in
You
the
can't
stage.
ask me and not answer it yourself.
Build this sense of trust and
I'm still
warmth
feeling
about it.
trust and warmth about it, mate. Okay.
No, you know what? You are going to think of every single argument to back the Warriors winning that match, and you're going to put it in a sermon or do something with it, and you're going to sit there and you're going to tell yourself, we've got a chance. We can win this. You won't. You're going to get absolutely pinked.
Courtney Duncan, Liam Lawson, Scott Dixon. No, I don't know what to say except Yahoo. 3 names just that are all massive overachievers in their individual motorsports. Liam Lawson finishes 11th. But Scott Dixon finishes 3rd. Hey, we expect him to win every single time, don't we, Scott Dixon? And Courtney Duncan is now getting into the Lisa Carrington stage. It's ridiculous. 4 world championships. She was injured, I think, for 3, had robbed a couple. She should have about 9 or 10 on the mantelpiece at the moment. But
yeah, she should. You're right, yeah.
But 4 is amazing. I mean, this young woman just absolutely dominating the sport. I want to finish with the Otago Whalers. Now, I mention this because there used to be an ice hockey team in the United States called the Hartford Whalers. And all the lovies and screamers and whiners and whingers made them change their name. And their jerseys, their shirts, their merchandise sells for a lot of money these days on eBay because you can't get it anymore because you're not allowed to produce it anymore. You're not allowed to print it anymore. And yet out of nowhere, Out of nowhere, we've got a side called the Whalers in our National Rugby League competition. Why isn't somebody upset? Why isn't there a Greenpeace protest about this?
Yeah, but could
you
it be
distracted on something else?
Is there an argument that they're called the Whalers? I don't know. Like, what was that film? Whale Rider? I mean, are you a whaler if you ride whales or you swim with whales? Could you call yourself a bit of a whaler then?
No. Whalers are people that go out there,
I know what they do. I know what they do.
Kill them.
I know what they
extinct
do.
them is what they do.
The Japanese love those.
Well, the Japanese kill whales for scientific purpose. And it's called the science of sushi.
The
very
science of applying
complicated
perfume
science.
to your skin.
That's right. What you've got to do is you've got to slice that fish very thinly.
Toothbrushes as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't get up in arms about it. I mean, if they went out every weekend after games as a celebration to go and do some whaling, then I'd have a bit of a problem, but I don't know.
I don't have a problem.
There's worse team names out there.
I'm hoping that somebody else does. That's all.
Devlin.
LBP. Let's be positive with TMG. Twizel's Matt Gunn. His doggies started the season conceding over 30 points. End of the season conceding over 30 points. Here's a man who is glad that the NRL season for him is over. Two big games in town for most New Zealanders are going to be the Wars, and that is Saturday evening, early evening, 6 o'clock, and then previous to that, of course, the All Blacks versus France. Realistic World Cup prospects of both our teams are what?
Oh, well, certainly the Wallabies' realistic chances are maybe a quarter-final, and then, short of a miracle, a plane trip home. I'm not so sure on the All Blacks, because we've seen them play pretty well, but they've also been beaten by a couple of the front runners, France and South Africa, recently, and they've struggled against Ireland. And I think there's your top four teams, certainly in terms of the TAB, New Zealand, France, South Africa, Ireland, your top four teams. Can you get up over them? The New Zealand TAB has you favourites. It's outright
always,
winner.
Mate. Yeah, but that's always,
That's
mate.
the confidence the New Zealand public have, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the New Zealand
what I mean?
public always supports the All Blacks regardless. And so it does, I mean, they can just, so they've got to put low odds on it because that's where the money comes in.
That's where they would lose all their money if something comes off. Realistically, I mean, I just have a feeling Ireland might do it, Martin. I mean, they've just showed over the last few years how tough they can be. They can play that grinding sort of football. They have a little bit of flair occasionally, but it's just more that they just seem solid. The All Blacks, I think, are a possibility to be able to do it, but they've got to be a little bit more consistent than we've seen recently. Although, in a year like this, how much credence do you put in the results that we've seen?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
So,
we just don't know. Yeah.
Look, it's hard to just pick an outright winner. I read over the weekend a story that included a number of the major rugby writers, and none of them can come to an agreement either. So I think it's a lottery in many ways. I like that. I like heading into it. But it's the 4th today. We are just days away.
Oh,
it is
crazy.
It seems so far away, and then all of a sudden, here it is. Let's just hope the All Blacks, unlike the Rugby Union, are fit for purpose in Pool A.
Let's be positive, and we'll be positive about the Premier League in a second. That's your team as opposed to my team. But just on that not fit for purpose thing, I'm watching over the weekend. I had a crook gut, so I spent most of the day on Saturday on the couch just chopping channels and things. Mate, it's no wonder at all New Zealand rugby's in the position that it's in. And I look at the fish heads in Wellington and go, you people have been in charge for how long now? Mate, they've got 20 different games over the weekend. They're all clashing at the same time. So they're spreading their audience all over a piece of toast. There's only enough butter to go around probably one, but there's 7 or 8 games going on at the same time. No one at any of these games. How much does this cost? And when you put it like that, Matt, you're thinking, in terms of the business model, you're moaning that the competition's not fit for purpose. You've spent $142 million more this year than you did last year. You're trying to pretend it's a professional sport when there is no professionalism in this because the business decisions you're making just don't make any sense. How can you stage a Farah Palmer Cup semi-final at the Waikato Stadium with all the costs involved and no one is there? I mean, you're just pouring money down a hole and it's never coming back. None of this makes good business sense. And yet their answer is to turn around and go, oh, God, the competition's not fit. It's kind of like they absolve themselves of personal responsibility. I'm running this game, but it's not my fault. It's in the crap it is. How does that work?
Well, the panel that looked into the Rugby Union didn't just say the competitions weren't fit for purpose. They said they all of them, all of the administrators, all of the unions, none of them are fit for purpose. So it starts at the top and it needs to be led properly. I read yesterday, which blew my mind, that it cost about $200,000 a game for the NPC. That's half of it. Then the payer payments is another $200,000, $400,000.
Yeah, just
to put on one of these games.
Mind-blowing,
How
isn't
is this even possible?
Yeah. I mean, how did you get into this situation? That it's quite clear. And I don't know why it is so difficult for them to actually turn around and say, listen, we only generate this much money. That's all there is. There isn't enough. So if you really want to go and earn your big dollar, go elsewhere and do it. This is how big the pot is. We know it's kind of like running a jeans shop, isn't it? And you've employed 19 supermodels in the jeans shop to sell your jeans. You're only selling a couple of pairs a day, mate. But, you're paying each supermodel $500 for turning up. I mean, at some stage, the accountant's going to pull the handbrakes and you can go, no, you're going to have to lay some of these lovely, lovely young people off.
All comes down to figures. It all comes down to figures. Last year, when we met with the builders, $360 for the house, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. 12 months later, while we're still trying to get it all approved, it's now $470
right
for the same building. So what did we have to do, Martin? We had to cut off a bedroom and a bathroom. So our budget wouldn't stretch to the ideal fit-for-purpose house that the wife wanted. We couldn't afford it. We couldn't get the money for it. So what did we do? We slashed. So somebody needs to slash and burn. It's the only way forward. You can't spend more money than you've got. You can't continue to look for sponsorship deals to fill the gaps. And when your average crowd, not taking into account finals, quarterfinals, semi-finals, whatever else, is 2,600 people and 25% of them have free tickets, you need to slash the bedroom and extra bathroom.
There you go. Let's be positive finally. Oh, that's right, about the Premier League. Well, at least your lot are winning, and that's a nice way to finish your sporting weekend, was a 3-0 win over Aston Villa for Liverpool today, surely.
3 from 4 with a draw. We're sitting tightly at the top. I look down the table
here we go.
And I see... I mean, I've had to scroll down a couple of pages, really, but here you are with 2 from 4.
Yes.
It's always nice to be just a slightly ahead of you at this stage of the game. But what about Man City again? 4 from 4, top of the table. What are we expecting this year? I'm expecting Liverpool to just fight for this title this year, Martin. I'm expecting big things.
I'm expecting Man City to win all 38 games and just absolutely crush it. And then them and the Saudis to start a Super League and the rest of us to walk away because we're no longer interested in the sport. I am bitter and twisted about it, mate. I watched them play on the weekend. It was like watching a training run. It really was. They could have scored 25 goals against Fulham. And the way it's played now, if a defender gets in the area, no one's allowed to tackle him. The whole, there's just, I don't know. Maybe because my team's rubbish. That's just that's a bit of fan talking, isn't it? That's all that is.
A bitter fan. You're a Bulldogs fan at the moment. You're only in 11th, but on the way back up.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.